What if I told you the fanciest Rolls-Royce ever built had a golden toilet? And no, it wasn't for business, it was for champagne. Yes, you heard me right. A golden throne that never knew the call of nature, but was instead dedicated to chilling fine bubbly. That's right, my friends. The most eyebrow-raising marriage of wealth, eccentricity, and indoor plumbing rolled out in 1954, and it's still making people laugh, cringe, and shake their heads in disbelief 7 decades later. My buddy Jimmy, bless his curious soul, heard me mention gold toilet in a Rolls and immediately asked, "So, you're telling me billionaires were tailgating in style back in the 1950s? Jimmy, no. This wasn't about burgers and hot dogs on folding chairs. This was about caviar, champagne, and the kind of excess that makes the rest of us feel like we're living in black and white while these people were in full technicolor. Trust me, you don't want to miss this story." Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the 1954 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith limousine by Vignale, a one-off masterpiece that was equal parts Victorian opera house, Italian runway model, and comedy sketch prop. This wasn't just a car, this was rolling theater. It was commissioned by a New Jersey businessman named Joseph Maskich, a man who clearly wasn't satisfied with normal luxury. No, he wanted Italian flamboyance stitched into British dignity, and he apparently gave the designers one wild brief: make me something Italian, expensive, and preferably able to chill champagne in a golden toilet. The Italians at Vignale shrugged, smiled, and said, "Challenge accepted." From the outside, this limousine looked like money had been forged into steel. The body was sculpted by Carrozzeria Vignale, the same Coachbuilder who dressed Ferraris like they were heading to a red carpet premiere. It wore a bold 4-headlight front, a reverse-rake rear window that seemed to smirk at you, and a trunk so large it looked ready to haul your bad decisions in bulk. The traditional Rolls-Royce grille stood proudly at the center, flanked by sealed beam headlights and topped with the kneeling spirit of ecstasy, a hood ornament so elegant it appeared to bow in reverence to its own ridiculousness. If ever a car looked like it was judging the peasants from the curb, this was it. But step inside, and the absurdity takes on a new dimension. For the chauffeur, plain black leather seats. Simple, hard-wearing, practical. But for Mr. Maskich, nothing less than grey broadcloth so lush it felt like a Victorian drawing room had been stuffed into a limousine. There was a custom-built air conditioner, a Becca Mexico radio, a working telephone, and because why not, a center-mounted television set. Keep in mind, this was the early 1950s. Having a television at home made you upper class. Having one in your car, that was the automotive equivalent of renting out the moon for a dinner party. And then, beneath the rear seat, we reached the pièce de résistance, the infamous gold-plated toilet. Except plot twist, it wasn't for, well, the obvious. It was a champagne cooler. That's right, a literal golden throne for your bubbly. Imagine pulling a chilled bottle of Moet from under your seat while cruising down Fifth Avenue in the 1950s. Jimmy once told me he keeps beer cans cold in his toilet tank at home. Same idea. But instead of class, Jimmy ended up with plumbing repairs. Now, let's pop the hood, because even the engine bay looked like it was ready for a fashion show. Underneath sat a 4,887 cubic centimeter inline 6-cylinder, painted in deep green with chrome-plated pipes that sparkled like Christmas decorations. It delivered about 125 horsepower, not impressive by today's numbers, but this wasn't a dragster, this was a rolling palace. The power was sent through a 4-speed automatic gearbox, and the car floated on independent front suspension with hydraulic drum brakes at all 4 corners. Rolls-Royce wasn't interested in quarter-mile times. They were interested in making sure Mr. Maskich's champagne didn't fizz too much on the ride. As for price, this machine was never just a car. In 1955, it cost a small fortune, easily more than 1 or 2 houses, depending on where you lived. It wasn't simply transportation. It was a statement, a rolling embassy of wealth. Fast forward through the decades, and it became a collector's prize. At Bonham's Quail Lodge auction in 2014, it sold for just shy of $1 million, $998,000 to be exact. Nearly 7 figures for a golden toilet limousine. And if you think the story ends there, hold on. The car reappeared at RM Sotheby's in Milan in 2025, where it sold for around $126,500. Less than a Bugatti, but still more than my entire neighborhood's property value combined. But here's the kicker. This was the only Vignale-bodied Rolls-Royce ever built. One car. Uno. A one-off experiment that merged Italian flamboyance with British restraint, though restraint is hardly the word for a champagne toilet. Historically, it stands out because it shows just how far wealthy individuals could push personalization in the golden age of coach building. It was a reminder that Rolls-Royce would build whatever your wallet could dream up, even if the dream was absurd enough to require plumbing instructions. This wasn't a car you drove. This was a car you arrived in. It wasn't about stats or resale value. It was about making an entrance so dramatic Hollywood directors would have told you to tone it down. It was about sipping champagne in a moving palace while your chauffeur politely ignored you. Jimmy once tried to recreate the experience by mounting a TV in his outhouse. It shorted out in the rain, and he nearly electrocuted himself. Needless to say, not quite the same. So here's to the 1954 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith limousine by Vignale, a bizarre, brilliant, and baroque creation that proves sometimes excess isn't just enough. It's the whole point. And to you, dear viewers, thank you for being the chrome-plated pipes in the engine bay of our dreams. If you enjoyed this wild ride through luxury history, make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and stick around. Next time, we'll uncover another machine that's just as strange, stylish, and unforgettable. Until then, keep your champagne chilled, your televisions dry, and your cars classy.